Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another video. So in Japan, Battle Partners has released, and so that means we now have an idea of what are the exact cards that will be in Journey Together, which will release in March here in the Philippines and also other countries that have the English version as their standard. And so in this video, I wanted to talk about the cards that I deem as cards that will be sleepers, but will definitely be used in some shape or form. So you know that I do this anti-meta deck. So in a way, this is a video where we preemptively check which will be included in future anti-meta decks. So again, these cards will not be very famous, or at least I anticipate they're not going to be very famous. But I think they can be useful or could be a good addition to improve some of the decks that are already out there. But before we get into that, let me just remind you, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. Would highly appreciate that. And if you do like the video at the end of it, go ahead and hit that like button. Alright, here it is, the top 5 sleeper cards that is coming soon in the Journey Together set. Number 5, we have Butterfree. For the namesake alone of the evolution, so Metapod evolves into Butterfree and we have an anti-Metapod segments, just to give an ode to that in a way. But also, if you look at the attack here, it only is 1 energy, that's Scale Hurricane. So you flip 4 coins basically, and every heads you do 60 damage. But the interesting part here is this: if 2 or more are heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is paralyzed. That is very good odds. So usually with the paralyzed status condition in Pokemon, it's just flip 1 coin. Flip a coin. If heads, the opponent is paralyzed. If tails, nothing happens. So that's basically 50-50, right? So with this one, I am not sure how to compute this one. But in terms of ratio, it's kind of like flip 2 coins. If 1 is heads, the opponent is paralyzed. So maybe it's around 75%, but no matter what it is, I am pretty sure it is more than 50% chance that the opponent is paralyzed. So this is 4, flip 4. If 2 of them is heads, the opponent is paralyzed. That's not bad damage. So if all is heads, so that's 240 damage. If 2 is heads, that's 120 damage. It's very squishy. It's a second stage Pokemon, so kind of hard to set up as well, but with 1 energy and with the paralyzed condition having a very high chance of happening. And I'm already having ideas on a deck with Butterfree as the base, and I can't wait to use it. At number 4, we have a stage 1 fire Pokemon that evolves from Magmortar. You can just forget about the attack because I've put him here because of his ability, Magma Surge. During Pokemon checkup, put 3 more damage counters on your opponent's burn Pokemon. And mind you, there is no condition here when it comes to the ability, so it doesn't say, oh, if it's in the active spot or it has to be in the bench. No, just straight up, if the Magmortar is in play, you will put 3 more damage counters on your opponent's burn Pokemon. So burn does 20 damage, and then on top of this one, that will be 50 damage in total. The card or deck that I am already thinking of is the Incineroar deck. So with Incineroar, it does 240 damage, and then the opponent is burned automatically. And there's a chance that you can use the attack for only 1 fire energy. So that is a very good bargain attack basically. So 240 plus burn, so that's 260 damage. On top, you have Magmortar, that's 290 damage, right? And then another thing is, there is also no condition here when it comes to stacking, right? So if you put 2 Magmortars, that will make it 6 more damage counters on your opponent's burn Pokemon, right? So it doesn't say, oh, this ability does not stack. At least in the current translation, it doesn't say that. So in theory, with Incineroar, you can do 320 damage in 1 turn, right? And you know, 320 damage, that is enough to KO a Dragapult, which is very popular right now. The HP of Dragapult is 320, so if, like, yeah, right, so let's put a situation here. So if Incineroar is your active Pokemon, you have 1 energy, and then the opponent has 5 basic Pokemons or whatever, has 5 in the bench, so that makes the Magmort that makes the Incineroar's attack only 1 energy, and with 1 energy you're able to do 240 damage plus the burn does 20 damage, and then plus 2 Magmortars, that's 60 damage, so 80 basically with the burn, and then 240, that's 320, 1 hit KO, Dragapult. So that's the only reason why I've put Magmortar here, for the ability, and the reason that it doesn't there's no condition where it has to be in the active Pokemon and it can stack. So that's why we have Magmortar at number 4. Man, that is a lot of words. At number 3, we have Tyranitar. This could be controversial because Tyranitar is kind of a fan favorite. But I think in this set in particular, the famous ones will be the Pokemons who are owned by trainers. With this particular Tyranitar not being owned by anybody, I think it's a sleeper. Daunting Gaze, the ability, is pretty OP. So while this Pokemon is in the active spot, your opponent can't play any item cards from their hand. Right? Talk about Buju getting really good attention right now because of its attack, prevents opponents from using an item. Tyranitar, you don't need to attack, you just need to be in the active spot. But of course, there's a obvious counter to that. You just boss orders somebody else in the active spot, and then the opponent will now be able to use an item. But still, it's a pretty OP ability. Now, together with the attack, which will allow you to discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck, this has the potential to be a very good mill deck. So the attack discards the opponent's deck, and then the ability to trap with your opponent not being able to use an item card. Your opponent can't use switch or whatever. This is pretty good. So the ability and the effects of the attack is a very good combo. The only downside actually is the damage. So 150 damage is a pretty significant damage. So with mill decks, you want to trap somebody and then just keep discarding the opponent's deck. With this one having good amount of damage, you'll eventually knock out the card or the Pokemon that is in the active spot. And what happens, of course, if you knock out a Pokemon, your opponent will be free to put in the active spot whatever Pokemon he wants or she wants. So that may be an issue when it comes to the trapping, discarding, and all that. So that's why Tyranitar is only at number 3. Could be higher if there's no damage, to be honest with you. But it is there. So, and also, I think Dark Patch will no longer be viable in when Journey Together comes out. So that's another downside, not just to Tyranitar, but to Darkness Pokemons in general. At number 2, we have Lycanroc. Now, ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves because this part we're gonna do a lot of math. Right, so Lycanroc has an ability, Entangling Spikes. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may attach up to 2 Spike Energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. Now, in order to fully understand this, we have to know what Spike Energy is. So Spike Energy is a colorless special energy. So if it is attached to a Pokemon that is in the active spot, whoever attacks that Pokemon will get 2 damage counters on it. So put 2 damage counters on it. So with Lycanroc able to get 2 Spike Energies from the discard pile if you evolve it, that means 40 damage whoever attacks that particular Lycanroc in the active spot. Now, this ability, together with the Spike Energy, is a good combo to its attack, Grabbing Fans. Grabbing Fans, you only need 3 colorless energies, right? And then this attack does 40 more damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. So this is where the math part comes in. So plus 40, meaning the base damage is 40. And then if your opponent, let's say, has 4 damage counter coming from the 2 Spike Energies that you got to a Lycanroc, right? So that means you can do 200 damage in one attack but with that Pokemon already having 40 damage, that gives it 240 damage in total. So enough to knock out a Raging Bolt, a Terrapagos. Well, with Terrapagos, actually, its weakness is fighting, so you probably don't need to go that far with Terrapagos, but a lot of basic EXs will be in that range. Now, with Stage 1 Pokemons, you will need Stage 1 EXs, like a, what do you call that one? Like a Ceruledge EX, you will need 5 damage counters actually, so that will make it 240 damage in total, and then plus the 50 damage that is already there, so that's 290 damage. And then now, if you need to KO a Stage 2 EX, you will need 6 damage counters, so that is 6 times 4, 24, with the 40 as a base, so that's 280, and then the 60 damage that is already in there, 340 damage. So enough to knock out a Venusaur, a Charizard EX with 330 damage, and a Dragapult with 320 damage, right? Or HP, I should say. So with 6 damage counters, you can basically knock out any Pokemon in the game if you are using a Lycan Rock deck. Now, again, with the 2 Spike Energy that is free basically to get from your discard pile, with the ability of Lycan Rock, you probably need another Pokemon or another way in order to put some damage on your opponent. Could be through a Buju maybe, or a Frostlass, or I don't know, a Monkidori could be, but this is a very squishy Pokemon, so it probably won't be able to hold some damage to it. But yeah, you just have to find that out to put 2 extra more damage in order to knock out anyone, right? So I think that's a pretty good rogue deck. And so that's why I put Lycan Rock at number 2. So it can definitely be a base on a new deck that will be available when Journey Together comes out. Now, the top sleeper card coming out in the Journey Together set, in my opinion, is this Stage 1 grass Pokemon named Axelgor, with the attack Ephemeral Poison, 70 damage, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused and poisoned. And then the added effect, switch this Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. Now, there are decks out there, or there is a particular deck that uses Flygon. With Flygon, there's an attack where it needs 1 fighting energy and it does 120 damage, and then after that attack, it will go back to the bench. And it's usually paired with Pokemons that are, you know, can block attacks from the opponent's Pokemon, like Mimikyu, which blocks EX's attacks, and then also, what do you call that, Cornerstone Ogerpon, which blocks attacks of Pokemon with a ability. So usually Flygon is combined with those particular types of Pokemon, right? With Axelgor's attack being similar to that, Axelgor can definitely slide in to replace Flygon in that particular deck. And I think it will be much stronger because with Axelgor, it's a 1 prizer, right? You will need, however, 2 energy compared to just 1 energy by Flygon, but in my opinion, that's okay. The damage will be reduced though from 120 to Axelgor's 70 damage only, but the trade though is that the opponent will now be confused and poisoned after the attack. I think Axelgor will make that particular deck over the top. It will be stronger, way stronger compared to if it's using Flygon, right? And so Axelgor, sleeper for rogue decks, definitely number 1. And there it is. That is the top 5 sleeper cards coming soon in the Journey Together set. Wait 2 more months and then I will make a anti-Metapod segment out of those cards. All right, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed that one. I will see you on the next one.